After after a game like that, you can't. First off, you're excited that you have more games to play, as much as anything. And once you start evaluating we're at the halfway point of our season. Um, and just looking at that game, there's a few things, very few, that we liked about what we did. But the score, if you saw the game, you kind of saw how it played out. And for that to happen, thought we had a good week of practice. We didn't. Results kind of say that a little bit. Thought we had a better game plan than we had. Thought we would play better. So it was a collapse that game. Then you look at the big picture a little bit. You keep saying that game. It just didn't go. We played better. I thought we were in a different position than we ended up being that game. But had a few injuries. But hopefully we'll get a couple guys back, and I know we'll play a lot better than we did this past week. With the upcoming game, of course, against Wisconsin. With that said, take your question.
Lovie, could you just clarify? I didn't quite understand. Did you say you thought you had a good week of practice leading up?
Yeah, we did. You know what? I can't tell you a time when I've gotten to game day and said, we just stunk up the place this week practice-wise. Normally it doesn't happen that way. Guys come to work, you go through your routine that you normally have. Same routine we had this past week was the one we had the week before that, when we really played a lot better against Rutgers. So sometimes, which we could pinpoint exactly what happened, but it did. What you do from the game, though, there's some things. We make mistakes, and then we didn't perform. We were in positions to make some plays. We didn't. So it was just a combination. Again, guys, we can talk about that Purdue game the rest of the time up here. I don't have any answers for you. When you don't have a lot of answers for what happened, you go back to work, which we'll do. We've started that process, of course, this morning watching the video. But now for our football team, whether you win or you lose, you have to move on. You can't let a bad game beat you the next week, and that's what we're not going to do.
How do you go about doing that?
Go back to work. Yeah. We have a routine. Watch the video, make the corrections, or acknowledge the positive things that happen, and you put that to bed, and then you move on. Wisconsin in itself gets your attention. We're not the only team that's disappointed in our play on a certain weekend. I'm sure they're pretty disappointed in how they played also. But that's what we've done. Wisconsin has 2 years ago they dominated us. Last year we played them better for most of the game. We still weren't able to finish the game, though. And hopefully this third year we'll see even better results.
You said you have to take away the positives. What were some of the positives?
We're in a whole lot. We're in a whole lot. Positive. Started off strong. Started fast. We did that. Blocked the PAT. When you're talking like that, there's not a whole lot. When you get beat that bad, you don't even really. We had a few guys few individuals that played pretty good football. But overall, there's not really anything to really talk about. We got behind early on after we had a fast start. Plan was to come out in the second half, and it went downhill from there with the penalty, and then just our play. So can't talk an awful lot about what we did well. Didn't do much well.
That interception also had 12 tackles. What can you say about his
I'm sorry, one more time.
Sidney Brown had an interception, 12 tackles. What can you say about his game on defense?
Well, Sidney, I think it's kind of obvious. I think he's a pretty good football player on how I've talked about him since he got here. He's still, of course, in a new position. So there's a learning curve that you still go through. But he did get his first pick. And of course, Cam Watkins made a good play to allow him to get his first one. And whether the quarterback would have thrown the ball or not, if we hadn't jumped offside, he might have had another. But I think we're going to see that from him. He's going to get better and better each week.
and reviewing the film from Saturday, is there something that jumped to the top of your list that you want to address first this week in practice?
No, it's all of the above, really. And guys, we have a routine that you go through. You don't change it. You don't do this. We have a plan to take care of mistakes. We're going to start that. We've already started that process, of course, watching the video. But that's what we're going to do. But a part of that is moving on with your game plan for the next opponent, and that's what we're going to do. We have our hands full with Wisconsin, all three phases, and that's what we're going to do.
Coach, how severe was Tony Adams' injury to his hamstring?
Whenever a player, can't finish, hamstring. You say hamstring, did I tell you I have a history with hamstring? I think I've kind of talked about that probably more than you would like to, but normally you don't come back right away from a hamstring injury if you really pull it. And that was the case with Tony. Unfortunate. So we talk about Sidney Brown. He had just moved to a new position, and he's still learning the position. But eventually he'll be back. It's not season ending, but he won't practice tomorrow, and we'll kind of see how it goes from there.
Kirby Joseph, a guy that's going to get more opportunities at safety now?
Kirby Joseph was next in line. As you probably saw, he didn't finish the game either. So he has an ankle injury. So we'll see exactly how far he's come tomorrow.
Coach, halfway through the year, how do you evaluate your linebacker play?
We've done some good things, but we have a 3-3 record, and you played the way we have defensively. You can't really talk about a lot of positive things. I'm really excited about seeing what we can do the second half of the season. Jake Hansen started off strong. Dale Sean Phillips has done some good things, especially intercepting the ball. Dele Harding, based on offenses running more 3 receiver sets, hasn't played as much. This week he'll get a chance to play a lot more. Linebacker play needs to improve like all positions.
Going forward, just what are your top concerns defensively for this team?
It's hard to say just one thing. Run defense, pass defense, taking the ball away more, doing better on third downs, not giving up the big play. I'm going to be saying the same thing. We're playing really good defense too. We're going to talk about those same things. You need to be able to start back over each week and get those things done right there.
After reviewing the film, were you guys able to see what Purdue did to make getting that running game going a challenge?
Yeah. What Purdue did a good job, right before the half. They're kind of trying to run out the clock a little bit. We let them have some big plays there. We just didn't play it, the way we should. It was most disappointing in, I would say, the big plays, the explosive plays that we gave up. And that's been kind of a common theme a little bit. The disappointment kind of goes with that.
Heading into the weekend, just what are your first thoughts on this Wisconsin team?
Wisconsin has a system. I'll talk about them offensively first. They have a system of a commitment to the run. It starts with that. We played a lot of spread offenses. Wisconsin will huddle. So there is some old school flavor to that. Again, they want to grind it out, play tough man ball. So that's the challenge. So you start off with that. They're a running football team that will occasionally pass. Again, you're not going into the game wanting to win the game based on them passing the football. On the defensive side, they play hard. They're sound, play fundamental football. And I think they're just a good fundamental team that wins football games that way, don't beat themselves an awful lot.
Well, you talked about winning one-on-one battles up front on the defensive line. Did you credit that more to youth still trying to gain strength, or what do you credit?
I think it's all. As you talk about both sides of the ball on how we play offensively, defense, when we play well, we're going to talk about how the offensive line did, how the defensive line performed. And we don't have success. That's what we're going to talk about. We didn't win the one-on-one battles. It starts up front. And not just in the running game. I think it's kind of obvious. Passing game, we need to get more production from there too. We'll keep working with guys, keep looking at different combinations till we get it right.
Jonathan Taylor, pretty good player, right? One of the best guys you've seen, I assume.
Yes.
Just what do you think about it, how he runs, what he does best?
Well, Bob, he's definitely a scholarship player. Excellent speed, a runs low to the ground, good runner inside. But again, with the speed, he can, of course, break them on the outside. When there's a commitment to the run, and especially with an offensive line as big, as physical, as athletic as Wisconsin has, that's tough duty, with that commitment to the run. So we're going to need to be more sound than we've been in the past of keeping, some of those traditional runs to minimum gains. But, again, he's one of the top running backs in the country. I think his stats will show that each year.
Does that line look like a lot of guys that can play at the next level?
Absolutely.
Right.
They played a while too. But, they get off, they look pretty good getting off the bus, good height. And that's, as you think of Wisconsin linemen, that kind of fits the mold a little bit on what you expect from them. Big guys that can play, physical guys, but they're big, physical, athletic guys so that's why it'd be a big challenge, for our defensive line. When you haven't played your best football, you want to play against a team like this to really, come back as much as anything.
When Barry Alvarez started there, which has continued, is that kind of the ideal for you guys to kind of get that consistency that, what you will on another team?
Absolutely, and it was a process for them as they've established exactly who they want to be. But yes, of course, Coach Alvarez started it, and that's the thing about having Paul Chris there running it right now. I mean, he's been there throughout it all, and there is a commitment to that. And again, we understand who they are, and that's why there has to be a lot of excitement for us, and there is. We're in our it's a conference game. We have a history against a traditional stadium and an old school, a little bit football, which is a great thing.
When you have, some costly penalties at bad times, like over the weekend, does that change the staff's approach to trying to mitigate those, or what is the approach to trying to mitigate those?
The approach is to not have them. And there is no answer we can give you about a penalty. We're not doing it on purpose. The guys can't do it. And you hope when a guy makes a bad mistake and there's an untimely penalty, you see what it can do to a game. We hope that message gets across. If it's a player that continues to do it, one player, and that's not the case. I know you're probably talking about the one with Stanley Green. That's not. We've talked with Stanley about targeting calls and things like that, but not this. But just like everything, we don't want to, have penalties that, put us in a bad situation, and I don't think that was the mindset for them to try to do that.
What do you want to ask of A.J. this week, particularly in the passing game?
More production, and the same things we ask each week from our quarterback. Make good decisions, lead us. Of course, when you have a game the way we did, and the week before, the first guy we're going to talk to is A.J. about the positive things we did. And A.J. understands when we have a tough game, the first question is going to come from the head football coach, the OC, the quarterback. What we like for A.J. to do is just like we're talking about everyone else, we're going to go back to work. A.J. threw some good balls. We dropped some passes, but that's just the life of a quarterback. You get a great opportunity this week. He won't remember an awful lot, and we won't remember an awful lot is what we're saying if we can get a big win against them.